to Straight from the Muzzle, folks, where we are anything but straight. I'm Space.
And I'm Bean.
And we welcome you guys to today's show, which is about what?
We are talking about the most recent documentary about furries, which, cue eye roll, is actually pretty good, which is very different compared to the usual media coverage we get on furries.
Oh, yeah. Most of the time when someone covers a furry, like, anything, it's always like, oh, this person, had sex in their car and someone just happened to film it and then leaked it to the news and now everyone knows about it, blah, 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 blah. So it's like, that's usually what happens. And by that time, half the world's already caught on fire because that's how much it spreads, how quickly, within like a day, I would say. No, I'd say we're probably within minutes.
Yeah. We've gotten a lot of really bad media coverage in the past, especially in the earlier 2000s. But we've gotten more and more, more positive-leaning coverage recently, which I'm appreciating. And the documentary that we're going to be reviewing on today's show is, it's a CNN original series, and it is a series by Lisa Ling, and it's called This Is Life. And the episode that we're particularly reviewing is called Furry Nation.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool name. And now the article, or it's not an article, the video is what it is originally. And then one day, it was actually, I believe, last week, I was just scrolling down in between calls at work. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom of CNN, it's usually because I'm bored at that point. But I found something that said furries, and I'm like, hello, wait a second. And I clicked on it. And so, like usual, my first initial reaction was, oh, great, another news source is now reporting about furries. So I posted it like that. And then as I was reading into it, I'm like, I need to change the way this tone is because it's completely the opposite of what I thought it was. So,
and I don't blame you for having an initial negative reaction because most of the time when there is something talking about furries, whether it be an article or a video, it's usually slandering them at best. So it's this is a different case though, which is nice. They actually picked some individuals to interview, and they went through the trouble and they went through the time to actually go to a furry convention. So they didn't just go to a group of people and pick out the weirdest one they could find to interview. They actually picked some pretty reputable and some good role models to look to.
And it was pretty well hidden too, because I didn't, usually when journalists reach out, they'll reach out to an amount of people. And I don't know what the response is, but they never really look for key players. And in this case, this particular video that we're going to watch, there's only 2 key players, and then there's those 3 that I've never heard of, but I really want to know who they are now, just because there's a couple of them that I identify some types of social anxieties with. And so I saw that as I was reading or watching it, I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very relatable.
Oh yeah. So I thought what we could do is probably split this up. You can talk about the video portion of it. We can go over that kind of stuff. And then the other portion is the article, which is based off of the video itself. Still written by Lisa Ling, but it's a lot shorter, condensed-wise. Because I think the video is 40 minutes long.
It is. It's about a 45-minute video. So if you want, since the article is a condensed version, we can kind of graze over the article before going into all the nitty-gritties.
Sure. Do you want to start with the video, or do you want me to start with the article itself?
We can start with the article first, since it is more of a summary. Condensed. What was your first, general reaction? What was the first impression you got from the article?
After reading it or before reading it?
No, we already know what you felt before reading it. As you were reading it, the first couple paragraphs, what were you, feeling versus what were you expecting?
So when usually I pay attention to the very first sets of a paragraph, because that's usually what sets the tone for an article or a newspaper, story. This one really nailed it, and it was very, very accurate as to what they have to portray. The very first sentence, by the way, it should be making waves in the fandom, because it says the furry community has a message for the rest of the world, colon, this or their culture is not about sex, which I thought was very important. Like, of all the things to start the article off with, this would be the last thing I would assume would ever be up on the front. And so I was like, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to continue reading.
And I think CNN had that was a a conscience what
Conscious.
a conscious decision on their part, because with starting off like that, not only is it a great literary hook, it's also stating the true fact that most other news outlets have hyper focused on the sexuality of the fandom, and not just sexuality as a whole, because of course furry sexuality can be a very positive thing, but they only focus on the negative of it, or even if it's not negative, they're labeling it as such. So with the starter sentence of this article you're talking about, I think it was a very conscious decision.
And one thing to think about too, if you guys like notice, pay attention to news and everything that's been happening in the past and what it is like now. More than ever, it's so important for journalists to get the facts right because of all the things that are like fake news or organizations being targeted. Now, journalists are being a little bit more careful, but they are getting everything that they can and then building a story around that. If they do something stupid like say it's all about sex, then, you know, they're only going to reach so many people and it's not going to be the most accurate point of view. I think they chose that accurate point of view, which was good. The second sentence, though, this is the best part. The second sentence is exactly how I would say about 99% of the fandom actually thinks, just in general. But it says, in fact, people in the furry community are largely annoyed about how their community has generally been portrayed by mainstream media outlets. That is a true statement.
True facts right here, folks.
The 1% that I left out were those who probably think the fandom, like in general, furries think it's about sex. But for the most part, that is how I feel in general. I am quite annoyed most of the time when I see articles or news stories come out and they get it wrong. But it's nice that someone actually listened. You know how hard it is to find someone to actually listen and then kind of give their feedback? That's what this is.
And of all the people to do that, it's CNN, which is strange, but, you know, happy we have it at least.
Now, this third one, I won't read the whole article itself, but they paint, like, in these, like, paragraphs, these little mini, like, sentences, they really paint some pretty good, true, hard facts. And it's amazing that they actually did this. They said most feel like depictions of sexual fetishes, wearing furry costumes, and cavorting at wild parties are inaccurate and downright unfair, say experts. For the unaware, we're talking about a worldwide community estimated at hundreds of thousands strong who call themselves the furry fandom. And then they also say that it's made up of old and young, all genders, CEOs, blue-collar workers, singles, couples, parents, students, LGBTQ, and straight, all who celebrate fantasy animals with human traits.
Now, that
right
is
there.
one
Right there.
that is a really great thing to bring up with the article. I don't think they said any kind of statement like that in the video, but they definitely covered that in the article, bringing up the variety of people that's in the fandom, because it is so large.
And it's good. So, like, you know, I'll put this in, like, I'll put a link in so you guys can get, like, you can see the video, but you can also see the article, and you can kind of take in the two and put them together. But this type of article right here from CNN, this is something that I would 100% give to anyone who has a question about the furry fandom, whether it's parents that are, you know, wondering if their kids are getting into some sexual deviancy. I would send this to them, because this right here, if this was just the article, those sentences right there, that would be awesome, because it's someone who's not a furry who is stating the facts. It goes into more detail. It has a bunch of videos, pictures. They interview a few people They looks like there's a character called Komos. They talk about the original conference, and they talk about furry lingo, what's used, how it's used, what's preferred. They talk about demographics, all different types of things. Like, just information you wouldn't ever see on any sort of news outlet. So I'm actually quite impressed by what is being said here. They talk about the dances. They ask a question like, can the furry fandom heal? And they say a lot of furries have some kind of bullying history. Researchers found that that was reported that significantly more bullying than the average person. 61.7% of furries reported being bullied from the ages 11 to 18. So that is a statistic I've not seen before. It's not a statistic that's ever been on a furry survey. So that is an eye-opener right there. It kind of makes me, like, when I read that, I kind of choke back tears because it's so frustrating that number is so high. I'm actually quite disappointed and disgusted that number is so high. So, and I don't know if it's because they're being bullied in the fandom or just in general they are being bullied in life.
It could be both, honestly.
And it could be, but it's still sad. But they go through, there's just tons of things. They have the future of furries and all these different things that are going on. I don't really think there's anything I could pick apart from this article. And I really want to. But
here's something I want to connect with the article and the video. I know with the title of this episode, it seems like we're only reviewing the documentary side of it, but I would like everybody, if you haven't yet, to not only watch the video, but to also read the article, because both have things that each other don't include. The article is really great because it does bring up some topics that the video didn't discuss, and I honestly think it's because if those facts and statistics were thrown into the video, it probably would have thrown off the flow of it.
Yeah.
But the article has more liberties to jump around and to still make sense because it's written. So if you could read the article and watch the video, then that would be great. You can really get two different perspectives on the same content.
And then one thing I will say, just in general, when it comes to stuff like this, it's really easy to be negative and pick something apart. So go into this with an open mind. See the raw material for what it is, and be grateful that for once, maybe twice, someone has actually gotten it right, rather than focusing on the negative. I know there's tons of stories out there. There's like major like rumors and things going out that are always like, this furry said this, or this furry did this on video, or whatever. That's great. That's a video. That's going to draw attention, whatever. But don't let that cloud something that's so good for us to have. Let this be risen up so that people can see it. Don't tear it down. That's pointless.
So with that being said, there is something I want to bring up before we start actually picking apart the video ourselves, is that you have to remember you as a furry, you're watching this from a furry's perspective, but it was not necessarily made for you. It was not made for just furries on their own. If anything, it was made for people who aren't furries to explain in a short way what they could be or what they are. So you have to keep in mind this video is not made as 100% informative on every aspect of the fandom. It's a 40-minute long cable documentary, okay? They're gonna pick a few aspects of the furry fandom and go into those. The furry fandom may have a lot more to it that CNN didn't discuss, but take it for what it is, for a 40-minute long documentary that non-furries made for other non-furries. They're just talking about furries. So that's just something I wanted to bring up, because the video is, it does talk about furries in a positive way, but it only reaches so far. But that's okay, because it doesn't need to go that far if it's just a short little documentary,
It's better than nothing. Let's just say that. Kind of makes me wonder. I wish there was a docuseries where maybe some of the really well-known documentary people in the fandom made little episodes, little 20, 30-minute episodes of different aspects of the fandom around the world.
Oh yeah,
That would be
that would be great.
That would be awesome.
Because like this documentary would be a great first episode for something like that as a just an overall summary, and then the episodes can go into more detail on individual like aspects of the fandom. But of course, CNN isn't going to be interested in that because that won't make them a lot of money. So they just made a short, sweet, positive video, and we're going to pick it apart and look at it for what it is.
We'll take it. Yeah, we'll do that. So that's pretty much about the article. There's little videos and stuff in there, but let's hop on over to that video.
So the intro to the video, like you were talking about how the beginning of the article really hooked you in. Something I really appreciated with the first like couple minutes of the documentary itself is they immediately try to relate whoever's watching, whether if they're a furry or not. They try to kind of grab the audience and try to make them relate to furries. They talk about like they use the word "you" directly, which it's a literary device to grab the audience. So it's like, do you remember when you liked cartoon animals as a kid? Do you remember how they made you feel really happy? And they have like videos of people at Disney hugging the mascots and little kids watching cartoons. It's something that everybody can relate to, whether you are a furry currently or not. So it kind of gives them an immediate relation, something to relate to before they hop into what furries are.
I like that too. It kind of it hooked me in. Well, I mean, it's a hooker. That's basically what it sounds like. It's kind of hooker.
It's a hooker.
It's a hooker. It's done in such a smooth way that if you hadn't said that just now, I probably still I wouldn't have realized what they were doing. But still, yeah, they're basically taking you out of your world and trying to make you remember about something. And then what they're going to do is they'll take that emotion, those memories, and they'll basically segue into what it's going to be talking about. And it's really interesting because you are pretty much on this boat with everyone else. And there's going to be at one point in time you're like, oh my God, I do feel like this. I felt like this. Or I know someone who feels like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. Well done. It's very well done.
It is. And the thing about just relating back to what I said earlier, how this documentary is not made for furries, that's what makes this introduction so strong, is that, of course, if you're a furry and you're like, yeah, I remember liking cartoons, I still do, because you're a furry. But if you're not a furry, if you're just a normal person watching this on cable, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that, and they're just going to kind of relate it back to their childhood. So just giving the audience something to relate to as they're about to talk about something that's kind of weird, it gives you automatically a positive view on what you're about to talk about because you're relating to yourself to it from the get-go.
And the music too at the beginning is just, it's kind of light and fun. And then when they actually go into depth and they kind of like either have piano or things like that, it really sets the mood. And it's not just setting the mood, it's playing with your emotions too. I'm not going to lie, I cried a few times just because I felt like I was in that same situation. Sometimes actually I am. I think I was, what was it, 2 days ago? No, it was yesterday. It was yesterday I was watching it. All right, moving on into the video.
So they go right into one of the individuals they interviewed, and this person is Lelia. And I've seen this person around at conventions and whatnot. They have a spaniel, I believe it is. It's a spaniel character. And
so
she immediately goes into interviewing this person, and she talks about her anxiety disorder and how living with it day to day can be difficult and the reasons why it might be difficult. And she also talks to her about her childhood. So it doesn't jump right in and just like
boom.
It just jumps right into it and really gets to the point.
In that moment. Yeah, it gets you into that moment right there. So it's kind of like, imagine it like Splash Mountain at Disneyland. Okay, you know that drop's coming, and then all of a sudden, boom, it drops, and you're down at the bottom. It's the same kind of concept here.
And
they
what
basically ease you in, and then boom.
Something I liked about this part when they're interviewing Lelia is they don't just, with a lot of other news outlets that make videos about furries that are negative, usually if they try to interview somebody who is anxious or who has PTSD or anything like that, they automatically kind of ignore the actual mental disability itself, or not disability, what is it?
They just ignore
They
it,
just
and they kind
ignore
of
it
go
and kind of
for.
label it as somebody being crazy or being unreasonable when it's not unreasonable. It's a very real thing that furries and non-furries have. A lot of people have anxiety disorders and people have to live with it. So the fact that they went about it as a mental health thing and not just a calling somebody crazy thing was a good positive for me.
What I liked too, it was really, it's very, I want to say it's like, it's a nice human touch to it. That she asked her, she's like, does it make you feel, do you feel anxiety being on camera? Like, she asked her these questions that,
And she was comforting her.
and she was, yeah, she was basically kind of like, in the same way, she's saying, I know you have anxiety, but I want to know if you're feeling anxiety. Now, if you know how to read like body language, you can see like in her face little twitches here and there that she was nervous. But I gotta give snaps to her because she went with it. She actually did a really good
Oh,
job.
absolutely. Layla
Yeah,
did a great job being truthful and honest while also just giving information to Lisa Ling that she could work with. And a lot of interviews from that media outlets try to get, a lot of furries try to avoid them. And when they do answer questions, they make them very vague, which I don't blame them because they like to twist your words. And Lelia did a really great job being truthful while also being cautious in a positive way. She gave her information that was truthful and it was accurate, but it wasn't necessarily beating around the bush, so to say.
yeah. It was just pure honesty,
Yeah.
which is great. Um, I like the part. I don't know if it's jumping too far in that interview part, but where she talks about her anxieties, but when she goes into fursuit,
Oh no,
it's
no, that's
like
not too far.
okay. So that's the one part that I kind of noticed, and I thought of my husband. So they talk about like how she feels anxiety and all of this, but when you put that suit on, you basically become something else, and you feel like you have the power and you have courage and all of these things, and you become like the thing that you want to be every day, but you're only doing that when you're in fursuit. I don't know what it is about a fursuit. I don't know what it is about wearing something, but when you're wearing something, it kind of makes you feel different. And I don't know if it's maybe because it's making you feel safe. Maybe she feels safe in that fursuit. But I noticed the difference. I immediately related when I was watching it to my husband, Felix. Felix has social anxiety. He's not as bubbly as I am, even in smaller groups. But when he puts on that fursuit, totally different. He's just outgoing. He's fun. He interacts. And I see it kind of like, oh my God, he feels either safe in that. Maybe it's a special power he's getting from it.
Your
But at the
fursuit
same,
chi.
yeah, but it's kind of cool because I get to see a different side of my husband, but I get to see a part of him that I'm sure he wishes he was on a daily basis all the
I
time.
think what it's escapism.
Yeah.
It's a way where you can just be something that isn't 100% you for a bit. You don't have to worry about what people think of you or how you're feeling because it's not you in that moment. It could be a piece of you, but it's not 100% you. And the anonymous factor of it can help as well with a lot of people with specifically like social anxiety.
Oh yeah. And then I think they move on. Who do they move on to next?
They move on to Boons. I don't remember his actual name, but his character name is Boons. He is the he was in the blech, wow. My mouth is messing up,
It's
y'all.
okay.
He was in the military, and
Oh, that's right.
which a lot of furries are military or navy or anything like that. If you ever noticed, there are a lot of groups and a lot of meetups at conventions specifically for like army, military, navy furries. And I think there is such a high amount of people that are in both of those groups because you've seen some messed up stuff and you've gone through a lot of stuff, and the aspect of escapism comes back if you've experienced something terrible and you can't escape the real world very easily. But if you put on a character, whether it's a fursuit or not, or you go into depth with a different world from yours through artwork or for literature or anything like that, it really helps with PTSD, which is a primary topic they talk about with boons specifically.
And I like that too. I've noticed that, like with the military furs, it's not just like recognition, but they really stick together too. They help each other out. Um, it's just like I have a soft spot for military. I've grown up around it. No matter where I've moved in this like world that we're in, I've always lived next to a base of sorts. My brother is in the Air Force, so whenever he gets deployed, I get really scared because he is like the closest brother I am to him. So I always get really worried, but I always have like this special place for military. I think it's interesting. What's really interesting is the three specific people that they interview each have a element of not anxiety but an emotion that everyone can identify with. If you don't identify with the military, you'll identify with the first one. If you don't identify with the first one, then you'll identify with the third person because they talk about disabilities in the third one, like, wheelchair and stuff. And I'm just like, they literally, there's no way you could not identify with at least one of these things because it's just impossible in the world that we live in today.
And with the section where Boons is the person being interviewed, it's really, there is some sensitive subject matter in here, so just warning for people who have gone through any type of abuse. He doesn't only talk about PTSD from a military point of view. A lot of PTSD is from actual combat. You know how a lot of like veterans can't do like the sound of fireworks because it sounds like gunshots. It just brings back those
explosions.
Yeah, or explosions in general. But the PTSD that Boons went through is from sexual assault in the military. So that's it's a part of the same animal. So you can have PTSD not just from the military. You can have it from types of abuse. You can have it from like car accidents. It can be a lot of different things, and that's something I just wanted to mention. Is the PTSD can have different forms from different causes, and his so happens to be from a lot of sexual assault through the military, which is more common than people think. Especially with individuals who are LGBT or female individuals.
It's probably not something that you see often because it's the military. The military kind of has like this
cover up.
Yeah, they have a facade that they want you to see, but there are tons of things that go on behind the scenes that you don't see. And to be honest, if you haven't heard it in the military, it's probably because they feel so ashamed as themselves, whether they were the victim or they were the person that did it. They don't want to talk about it because for some of them, it's almost like if you say something, they feel like they might be like attacked for it or someone will look down on it. So there's other reasons as to why you don't see it come out of the military spree. Because it's what do you call it? It's like military is strong and, you have to be like bold, but there are these things that happen.
It's a lot of toxic masculinity.
Exactly. Mostly dominated by male, which I wish there were more females in there because we need it. But yeah, it's unfortunate what happened, and it sucks.
And with Boons and Lelia they both have some kind of mental health thing they're trying to overcome. And this is something I liked with the fursuiting aspect of this, is that both of these people, they wear fursuits, and it is a form of escapism, and as for coping with day-to-day life, with having anxiety or with having PTSD. But when Lisa Ling was talking to them and the way that the documentary was set up as a whole, they didn't treat fursuiting as a way of hiding necessarily, which a lot of people try to label it as that, like people outside the fandom, like, oh, they're wearing these suits because they're wussies or because they can't handle the real world. And that's not the case. It's not. And CNN makes sure to avoid that kind of aspect or outlook on it. With the fursuiting on Boons and Lelia both, it's a way of coping, but it's also a way of healing. You can see later in the documentary, Lisa is talking to Boons at the convention, and he mentions having a goal of being as confident as he is in Boons outside of Boons as well. So with when they were talking about the fursuiting aspect of everything, I really did appreciate that they didn't just take fursuiting and turn it into hiding behind a mask because I can't deal with life kind of thing. They did very much connect it to healing rather than hiding, which is great.
And it is good too. And it's it's basically a source of coping. It's kind of like, treat it like this: your fursuit is your service dog. It's it's there to, it's there to shelter, but it's also there to help you feel comfortable and to either, progress and become better, and whatever else you want it to. It's what it is for you is what it is. But
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And then the last person on the list,
the last the last individual they interview as one of the main three is Allison.
I really liked this one. This probably was one of my favorites at the end. I love all the other ones too, but this one I really liked just because I feel like it could touch a lot of people who feel like this situation in general.
Oh, definitely. So with Allison, in the beginning when they were interviewing her, they were talking about her history. She was a very active person, a lot of hiking. It looked like she did skiing, all those typical kind of outdoor activities. And I think she was only 21, and she had already done so much. And as the interview went on, they were explaining how she started having difficulty with pain and getting sick. And they thought it was just because she was wearing down her body too fast from all the physical activity, but it ended up being an actual sickness that she ended up developing. I just looked it up. It's lupus is what she has.
Lupus genuinely scares me because when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, the first thing they actually thought it was at first was lupus. And it wasn't until they got her scan back that they realized it was something much worse. But the fact of the matter is, lupus is not fun. I know people that have it. They're constantly either in pain, they can get sick really quickly, they have to either go to the hospital, medications. You can think of pretty much complications all around the clock. It's not something anyone would ever wish another person to go through, ever. It's awful. But it's how you take the situation and you move on with it. Allison does a really good job in this case.
Oh, definitely. And
yeah.
The support that she has as well with her partner, it also helps a lot. And a lot of these individuals, I know Lelia and Allison both have partners that are helping them get through. And I think that helps too.
Not partners as in same-sex partners?
No, they're not. I just say partners because it's gender neutral.
See, and when I say partners, I usually use it as in my partner and I, because I'm afraid that people might judge.
It's their husbands.
Their husbands. But it's really interesting. So, she goes from this highly active life to pretty much being either wheelchair bound or times where she can walk, but it's not very far. And, in some situations that can either tear someone apart. It might have at some point in her time, but she bounced back.
She did. She used they told her when she couldn't do as much physical activity, that's when she started doing more artistic activities, because you don't have to have a lot of physical ability in order to boost your creativity. That's when she started making her own fursuits, which are really good from what I'm seeing in this documentary. She's doing a great job. And drawing as well. And I just think it's great to see when somebody goes through some kind of hardship, they can channel that negative energy and turn it into something positive and build off of it.
And new, probably something that she didn't really. Maybe she wasn't a good artist when she was active and she had other things, but now she has that time. Obviously, not a good time, but now she has that other ability that she can now exercise and, like you said, creative. What is that? Creative freedom is what she has.
And it really, when it comes to connecting this to the furry community as a whole, it really shows that the furry fandom can be a positive outlet to just boost creativity and to give you something to do, whether you're able-bodied or not.
And there's parts of it where you see that she's in her wheelchair and she's fursuiting. I've seen a few at conventions that I've gone to, and I think it's so awesome that they fursuit, even though they're restricted to a wheelchair. It's just another way of moving around. What saddens me is that sometimes I see them almost get ignored, which I wish was not the case. I don't think that's the case here with Allison, but it's empowering to see it, especially if Allison were to go and do charities. She could easily go to hospitals and identify with kids who are in that similar situation. And she could really make a big impact on their lives. So that's another way you can kind of connect it from the furry fandom to the regular community.
And anybody can fursuit if they want to. And that's the beauty of it with the furry community in general. Anybody can start drawing. Anybody can start fursuiting or fursuit making. You can just hop onto the internet and just go with it and immediately be engulfed in a space that is more positive and is empowering.
And the interesting thing is, as I'm thinking about it, so you're going to be making my fursuit in 2019.
Yes.
And the last time I ever actually wore a fursuit was when I was a younger kid, and I would actually dress up as, for Scholastic book fairs, I would be Clifford the Big Red Dog. But I remembered when I did that, I was really happy. I had lots of fun doing that. I can't wait to be able to jump into that character and be that person that, I'm going to admit it, I have pretty big social anxiety. And I wish there was a way for me to kind of jump from one part, be space, and then be able to be a part of me that I don't have to really worry about because I'm in fursuit. That's like I don't know, it's kind of like an Iron Man suit. It's like impenetrable. So I'm excited. I'm super excited.
It is super exciting. And connecting to the part where... Gosh, I'm having trouble collecting my words. Yes, escapism, connecting it to healing. I've had a similar feeling where I can be a bit socially awkward. I've gotten a lot better at it over the years, but in the beginning, I just wouldn't know what to do with myself at a convention. I would have trouble socializing, and I would put on my fursuit. For example, Rocket, he's a really kind of snarky character, and I talk in his fursuit. So when I'm wearing him around a convention, before I put him on, I'm a little awkward feeling. I'm walking around, just sightseeing, basically. But then I'm like, okay, I'm going to put on my fursuit for a bit. I loosen up, I'm talking to people in character, and then even when I take him off, the moment I take him off, it's like I still feel confident because I'm kind of riding that wave. And it lets you remember how to be confident, even when you take the costume off. Sometimes you just need a reminder, and if that reminder means putting on a giant animal costume, then by all means do it.
Whatever works. Now, there are two others that appear in this video. One of them is Telephone, the other one's Uncle Kage. Pretty much, I could say that it's pretty much exactly what they normally would say on camera. What I thought was really interesting with Telephone, though, is when she asked her if she could remove the head.
Mm-hmm.
That is huge because some people don't want to do that. I can imagine people who actually see the person underneath it might be surprised, and it might actually make a lot of furries really excited because they actually don't know who telephone really is. So I was thinking, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is gonna spark a wave in so many different like communities right now. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, when they were interviewing Ino and Kage both, it was they were very brief compared to the three other individuals they were talking to. I think it was just a spur of the moment, talk to them when they see them at a convention sort of thing. But they did go over some general misconceptions, like Uncle Kage brought up the response he usually has to people asking him, is it a fetish or is it all about sex? And he always has a pretty good response to this. And and then Ina was talking about how so many people, like, when they see her, they cry, they have a good time, and she enjoys like making people happy in that way through her performance. And just both of these interviews were really nice, and how they talked about more specific things to those individuals rather than broad definitions.
What I like with the now, I'm not a big fan of Uncle Kage, and I don't really know why. Maybe it's just because I've never really given him a chance. It could also be because everyone thinks he's like the father of the fandom, and I think that's just bull. But in this particular part, she says, "You're a chemist. What are you doing here?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's like, "Well, why not? Why not be a chemist? Why not be a teacher or a student? Why does it matter?" And I think that's really empowering because it's like I've always thought, I'm like, yeah, there's always like really like there's like lab physicists and CEOs, and I've seen like just really like just I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, but at the same time, then I'm like, but they're furries and they share like this like-minded side, and like, why not? Like, why does it matter? It doesn't.
It doesn't, no.
Everyone
And I
is a villain.
loved that part of the video. I absolutely loved that.
That was a good part. It's a good video altogether. There's a lot of good strong points. If you don't identify with one thing, you will with another. It's hard to get offended by anything that's said because everything that's being said is either being told from the furry's perspective, or it's being used with cold, hard, actual facts and statistics. It's just beautiful.
Now, there is some controversy going around this documentary, and because I don't know, I think a lot of the furry fandom likes to make controversy when it's unnecessary. And
Absolutely.
one thing I will say is that a lot of people were complaining about how every aspect of this documentary involves fursuits, when fursuits are only about 20-30% of the community as a whole, which I agree with. They did really lean hard onto the aspect of fursuits and fursuiting, when there's a lot more to it. There's art and literature, music, dancing, all of that as well. But for a 40-minute video, of course, they're going to pick the loudest part of it and focus on that because it's going to bring in more views.
Now,
So,
to counter that, though, Kage wasn't suited, but
no, he
Kage
wasn't.
doesn't suit, as far as I know. Maybe he has one. But on the article, it does go into individuals. It doesn't. It shows like some fursuits, but it goes more into like the art aspect and dances, and it talks about all these other things. So if you don't see it in the video, read the article.
Yeah.
See it from that perspective too.
Absolutely. And another thing we accidentally skipped over, I want to go back to real quick. When we were talking about Uncle Kage, was like, well, why not a chemist? Why not a teacher? And something else the video brought up was age groups.
Oh
How
yeah.
the furry fandom can be for young people, old people, it doesn't matter. And how Lelia was helping run a panel for younger furries and their parents to attend so the parents could ask questions and the kids could tell their stories so the parents could see some perspectives going on. And I thought that was really great that they brought that up. And it really solidifies that it goes against. Okay, let me try to reword this. When a non-furry is reading about furries, they automatically assume, oh, it's an adult fetish thing. CNN went out of their way to bring up the age groups that are actual furries and how children are in this group. And if children can be a part of it, and if young people and their parents can go to these conventions and learn and have a good time, obviously it's not all about the fetish side of things.
Or fursuits.
Or fursuits, yeah.
there's more than just to it. I'm sure there'll be more documentaries, in the future, and there'll be other things that will, cover other aspects, but it's not always about it's I'm just grateful we have this. Like,
Yeah.
this is a really good representation, probably one of the best I've seen.
So
Made by not a furry.
yeah, and it again is aimed for a demographic that is not furries. It's for the general public to learn about furries. So they do lean on fursuits a good bit in the video, but as a whole, that's not necessarily the worst thing they could have done. So I'm letting it slide. Uh, and a lot of people are I don't know why people are getting upset about this, but I want to talk about it because it's been bothering me, and I think it's been bothering you as well because we were talking about it earlier. A lot of people on Twitter specifically have been complaining about, like, why do they always dismiss the sexual side of the fandom? Or, yeah, it's not all about sex, but the sex part shouldn't be shunned. And I'm like, I don't think this documentary is necessarily shunning the sexual side. They're just saying that it's not
not about
all
it.
about it.
Yeah.
And I'm a very sex positive person, and I think exploring your sexuality through the furry fandom is a great positive thing. But for a news article that's aimed towards non-furries, I think if they went a little bit too far explaining, yeah, there's sex stuff, but it's not bad, I think the audience would immediately stop at, yeah, there's sex stuff, and just would roll with that instead of listening to the rest. It's true. The sexual side of the furry fandom exists, and it's not bad. But for a news article to not focus on that, I think is a more positive thing, since it's not geared towards furries in general, like
And
the demographic.
to be honest, these are people that are hiding behind their computers that wouldn't actually say this in person too. Keep
Yeah,
in
and I
mind on
think
that
the
as well.
majority of people do enjoy this video. It's just a few popular posts on Twitter I've seen floating around, or people are just getting angry over this video, this documentary, when it's not something to get angry about.
I don't understand why. Why would you want to find something that is just minute and then make a big deal about it? I don't get it. Why are you being so? I'm not saying hurtful, but why do you want something like that to be in a video anyways? Just think about it. Like, this is going to the community. How many times in the news have we been covered where it's more of a sexual fetish, and how many times has it been so negative that it pisses you off? Probably a lot. Why would you want something so good like this to make a good impact on the fandom to include something that could cause controversy? I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying this is something that gives us a step further. We need to accept that. They can do other documentaries about, the sexual side of it, and they've done those. Those exist. Those are great. Go gravitate towards those, but don't pick apart something that's good.
Yeah, and it's just, of course, if everything could be better, the documentary, if it were longer, it definitely could have covered more subject matter and a lot more things within the fandom besides what they did. But for what it's worth, for a very short documentary that a major news outlet made, for it to not only be accurate but positive, I think it doesn't deserve to get kicked so hard. And I don't think it has. I think it's just a few loud individuals have been upset with it, but I think the majority of the furry fandom as a whole has enjoyed this video. And I have too. I think it's a really good video, and it's a great video for people who aren't furries but want to know what furries might be about. It's a good way to put their foot in the door. So if they want to learn about furries and they want the gist and a positive introduction, this is a great video. And if they want to get further into it, then they can do further research within the fandom itself. So as kind of like a starter video, I think it's really great. It's a positive influence.
It is. That's really good. That pretty much kind of sums up the whole video, or the whole episode for today. We have other recordings that are available on our Buzzsprout that you're more than welcome to take a look at. You can listen to our pilot episode, which was something. Um,
I think
and
we
then
talked about a lot of random things, but that's
yeah, we did.
okay.
We were testing out. We were testing out different things. There's probably we've gone probably like maybe through 2 or 3 different softwares that record. And so it's just something we're testing out. But we have shows that we'll be uploading. You will see over the next month or so an influx of shows that'll either be added or will be adding soon. And that's because we're getting ready for something really exciting, but we're not going to fully release it quite yet. We want to get your attention, but we don't want you to get the whole Shazam at the same time. So, if you guys want to write into our store,
Our store? What are we selling?
What the hell? What was it? It's
If you want to contact us, whether you think there's a topic we can talk about that you really want to hear, or if you have any questions, or if you just want to say hello, you can actually email us. The email is talktothemuzzle@gmail.com. That's all one word and all lowercase.
No, it's not talk to the muzzle. It's contact the muzzle.
Is it contact the muzzle?
I'm pretty sure it's I'm gonna go check now. Hold on, folks. I'm not.
Look, we're
editing
already
this part
messing
out.
up. Wow.
I'm not editing this out.
No, that's fine. Whatever.
Whatever. Let's see what this is. It's contactthemuzzle@gmail.com.
All lowercase, all one word?
All one word, all lowercase.
All right, at least I was right on that front.
Yeah. So, and you can email us whatever you like. I'm hoping for some, hate mail. I'm really
send
excited
nudes.
For
Don't send nudes, please don't actually.
I swear to God, if one of you guys sends a nude,
Bean, what have you done?
I will be both super, satisfied, but at the same time disappointed. So I'll be a little bit of both. But seriously, though, don't. But I wouldn't be surprised if you did. But that's our show. If you guys that's our show.
That's our show. Thank you for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. And we hope you stick around for our next one, which should be coming out within a week or so.
Yeah, at our pace. So I guess we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Well, more or less, they'll be hearing us.
True.
But that doesn't matter.
Whatever.